Okay, we are started now.
Okay, somebody, Street Newsroom on Deep East TV.
This is Street Newsroom on Deep East TV for January 30th, 2014. Introductions? Okay, you want to go this way? We want to go to, okay.
Kenny Harding Jr. Foundation.
Tiny.
Hannibal.
Are you guys doing the Street Newsroom or y'all? Okay.
So we're here with Hannibal on this sacred land called Homefulness, which is off plantation, never pimped, only run by the people, poor people, indigenous peoples in resistance. And we're blessed to be here with Hannibal, who has just been through the criminal injustice system in the kkkourt. So Hannibal, can you tell Deep East TV viewers what's up?
Well, basically, in July of 2013, George Zimmerman, I always get his first name twisted up, George Zimmerman was acquitted of the murder of Trayvon Martin, at which point many people around the country started organizing rallies and marches and other forms of demonstration to demand justice for the murder of Trayvon Martin. And I, as well as my co-defendant, Tenzin Doha, were among these people who decided to rally and march and protest this injustice of George Zimmerman being acquitted for murder. And initially, there was about 7 people that I'm aware of that were arrested, and everyone's charges were dropped or never pressed, except for myself and my co-defendant Tenzin. And so we see this as strategic targeting and racial profiling within even the protest context, and targeting also of us based on our Islamic background.
So what happened in court? I didn't know that something just went down.
Yeah, so we've been getting the runaround for a few months now. From the beginning of our case, our attorneys were very confident in their ability to prove our innocence. Essentially, there's really no case against us, and we have been ready from the beginning to go to trial and to see, to see this in court. And the district attorney's office, even though they're adamant about pressing felony charges against us, have yet to actually be prepared in court to present their case. And so at this point, we recently had a continuance of our preliminary hearing, which should have happened on January 13th, but instead, due to 2 main factors, one, the district attorney did not have some kind of paperwork that's essential to their case, and B, the main, substance of their case is the testimony of a police officer who also did not show up in court, despite the fact that he was subpoenaed by our attorneys and by the district attorney. This police officer who supposedly witnessed us breaking these windows did not show up in court. And this should be by the course of California law, this should be grounds for a dismissal based on there's no evidence and there's not even a witness to testify against us. But as they don't want to let 2 dark men just get off without doing everything they can do or anything they can do to us, the judge decides, instead of dismissing the case, to put out a bench warrant for the police officer and to continue our preliminary hearing on to March 6th, a number of months later. and maybe this will give them ample time to, fabricate whatever evidence that they're trying to levy against us.
Sounds like another fabulous KKK kangaroo court system move. What are your attorneys saying? I mean, are they revolutionary attorneys, the folks that are working with you? They're not public pretenders. They're folks.
No, our attorneys have from the beginning stepped up and volunteered to represent us, from folks who work with the National Lawyers Guild, and they're very confident in our case, in our ability to prove our innocence, and at this point, one of the main things that has become more and more clear is that the district attorney is not prepared to press any charges against us, and they're either they're not reviewing the evidence that they're in possession of, or they're deciding that they don't need evidence to prosecute black and brown men for a felony.
Leo had a question.
So let me. So you got charged with a felony. What was your bail?
The bail, my bail was initially set at $10,000, and my co-defendant, I believe his bail was set at, I want to say his bail was set at $60,000. I'm not positive on that. But he had a separate bail, and initially we were not co-defendants. Initially we had separate charges. He was being charged with a misdemeanor, and I was being charged with a felony. And after they let these other folks go and they dropped charges against them, they joined our cases and made us co-defendants for the felony charge.
And when you talk about how many times have you had to go back and forth to a court?
I believe we've had about 6 or 7 court days up to now.
And the judge, when the police officer failed to show up during the preliminary hearing, the judge put a bench warrant out for his arrest.
Yeah, well, this is actually pre-trial. I don't know if I said that. Sometimes I get the words mixed up. But
no,
the
preliminary hearing at your preliminary hearing. And for those folks who don't know what a preliminary hearing is, it's a hearing in what they call the limited jurisdiction courtroom of the California court system. There's limited and unlimited. When you're being tried for a felony, you go to a preliminary hearing first. After your preliminary hearing, you are bound over to Superior Court, and they have to arraign you again, and they have to go through the process again. But the preliminary hearing is to see, is there enough evidence to try you, period. So,
well, there's actually a difference, right? So with the preliminary hearing, you have like entering pleas and so forth, right? With the pre-trial, we're supposed to get a concise presentation of the case against us, right? Okay. There's supposed to be a presentation of witnesses and any other evidence, right? And this was the pre-trial that happened on January 13th.
Okay.
So, for any last words that you'd like to say to Deep East TV viewers, specifically around the whole notion of protesting, because I feel like what you pointed out is that for black and brown young people to be actually stepping up for our own communities, we get nicked, right? So, is there anything else you'd like to just say as closing?
I mean, just every time I get a chance to speak and have people's ears, I would like to ask folks to find it within themselves to take responsibility for the other lives around them, to take responsibility for their community, to take responsibility for the world that they live in, and to be active as possible. I would not ask someone to put themselves in harm's way because of what I believe in, but I would just ask for people to consider the stakes that we're dealing with here, right? Now, I'm facing a felony, and when I was arrested, I was beat up by police officers, and I find that to be nothing compared to what I'm willing to pay to see justice happen in this world, to see us live and work together as members of the human family, right? And this is something that's going to cost us, and we have to recognize that. And the fact that it has consequences should be in no way a deterrent for us, because anything that's worth anything, at the very least, is going to take work and sacrifice. At the very least, anything you're going to do that's worth doing is going to take work and sacrifice. And so that's what I want to encourage people to do. I want to encourage people not to forget that Trayvon Martin was murdered, and his murderer got off with that, you know, and that's sort of the main thing that we're frustrated with about this case, is because we were all engaging in putting a social pressure on this government, thinking specifically about the federal government, who has the power to intervene in cases where the state is not holding people to justice, or in cases where the state is the perpetuator of crime. It is the responsibility of the federal government to hold them in check, right? And so when people are protesting and marching in different states, we're looking at a national movement, and there is an entity that has the power to enact justice, and that entity is the federal government, which still is on the hook for being idle, while states like Florida are letting a murderer get off, and then still pressing charges against a woman who had been abused and was trying to defend herself and was trying to protect herself and didn't hurt anyone, but she's doing years, and the murderer is running around speeding and drinking and doing all this, pulling out guns on people after this, still not held accountable for that murder, right? And so if the state's not going to handle it, then the federal government has a responsibility to handle it. And I'm not of the opinion that we're dealing with a just government, but yet and still, despite the fact that they're unjust, it is still their responsibility here. And they still are on the hook for this.
That's right.
And while we're being railroaded for supposedly breaking a window, which we did not do, that window is held as a higher value than the human life that we're seeing lost day in and day out.
That's beautiful. Thank you.